Welcome to the Sweaty Pillow. I'm so excited about our guest today. We have been in some deep conversations already about such an important topic. Today we have Dr. Kelly Anderson, who's the medical director of Felix Health, a family physician, board certified in emergency medicine and HIV medicine. Dr. Anderson practices at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. And as I mentioned, Dr. Anderson is the medical director at Felix Health, which is one of Canada's telehealth providers. And welcome, Dr. Anderson. We're so happy to have you here and talk about how telehealth can support women in menopause. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us about Felix and how it came to be and kind of where you guys started and how you landed at this important menopause category for you and the world.
Absolutely. So, Felix is a digital healthcare platform that connects Canadians with healthcare practitioners, doctors, and nurse practitioners. We serve over 900,000 Canadians, and we were founded in 2019. And I mean, to get into why Felix came to be and why I'm talking to you today, for me, it really started with birth control. In 2019, I've always been, interested in practicing in women's reproductive health and sexual health. I've done research in telemedicine coming out of my HIV fellowship, and I really could see that we were going in this trajectory of people being able to see doctors and nurse practitioners on telemedicine. Like that was going to be the future of medicine. And we needed to figure out how to do it the right way because it can be risky. So I went on to work for most of the telemedicine providers in Canada. And for many at that time, the way it looked was, you pressed a button and you started to talk to a doctor or nurse practitioner sort of one on one, and there was no information gathering up front. And it because doctors and nurse practitioners are not robots, they're trying to ask all the important medical questions, but a lot of them got missed. And I kept seeing women who were getting birth control renewals, and there's a series of questions that you should ask safety wise to make sure someone can take birth control safely. um, and I kept noticing like lots of women were not being asked if they had a history of migraine with aura. And that's a migraine headache when you see sort of flashing lights or floaters in your vision. And you
Mhm.
shouldn't take estrogen containing birth controls in general, with some caveats. But women weren't even being asked, they were being prescribed. And I would meet these women who had been on estrogen containing birth control, and I would look back at their previous visits, and no doctor had ever asked them. And I wanted to build something safer for Canadians. At that point, it was very early 2019. I met the co founders of Felix, um, and we had this shared vision of building a way, especially in light of our healthcare crisis in Canada, where millions of people don't have a family doctor. um, Ways for Canadians to access healthcare that was safe, where they would be asked at every single visit all of the critical questions to make sure they were getting safe prescribing. And we went out and started working with many academic leaders in their field to create these safe avenues of care. And last year we decided we needed to do menopause. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about why?
Yes, please.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I may as well tell you the entire story. So I'm in my 40s. Um, I've been the medical director at Felix since we started. And I noticed that I started getting targeted on Instagram, which I'm sure so many of your listeners are. And I kept getting all of these ads, that were telling me, like, if I take such and such supplement, all of my symptoms are going to be better, or offering me visits with menopause specialists for hundreds of dollars, or even in some cases like $1,000. And I reflected back on my own medical training, and I think I had 1 hour of training on menopause my entire medical school and residency. And this is common, and we can maybe come back to why that's the
Mhm.
case. But I realized last year when I started getting targeted with these ads that I, even as a physician, was not equipped to sort truth from fact or to understand like whether what I was being offered had any justification or truth to it. I went to our executive at Felix, and I was like, we have to do something for, you know, half of the population is going to go through perimenopause and menopause. We need to create an avenue that's accessible, that's affordable, that provides evidence-based information, and we need to go find like the best in class experts and bring them here and design this. And I've never seen our company get so invested and excited about something than menopause, and that's how we've ended up here and talking to you. And we've been providing menopause care since February, and we remain like just as excited, if not more excited, than when we started.
I personally, as a postmenopausal woman, am so grateful for the work that you guys are doing. And you and I have been talking, and we talk with our community about how there's a captive audience of millions of women that are so desperate for anything, right? That's why we get served up these ads. And I've fallen prey to, oh, if I only did that or this, because it's a almost a $1 trillion economy, and businesses are now kind of waking up and benefiting and targeting menopausal women just to make money, where we're missing that this is a 911 health crisis. And I'm very open about my own personal menopause journey on the plethora of symptoms that I didn't even realize. It's kind of like I say it's like the frog soup story. You put a bunch of frogs in soup and slowly start to turn up the water, and you don't realize anything's going on. It feels like a warm bath, and then they're boiling. And that's how I felt with slowly brain fog, slowly all of these things. And it's like I feel like garbage every day. Oh, and by the way, I'm at risk for a heart attack now as a healthy vegan adult, menopausal woman. It's so scary what we're dealing with. So this is such important work that you're doing. Tell us about the process that someone in perimenopause or in menopause will go through when they find Felix.
Yeah, so you would go to felix.ca, and you'll see all of the different everyday healthcare things that we treat on the Felix website. You would click on menopause. That stream addresses women sort of in their late 30s and up. So, women experiencing perimenopause, women postmenopause. And at that point, you're going to go through a series of questions. And these questions were developed by myself and our team and our medical advisor, Dr. Natalie Gamache, who is one of the leading experts in menopause in Canada. She practices in Vancouver, has been doing menopause for 20 years. And she spent months with me building this series of questions that not only gather information about you and your past medical history and your current medications and um, your lifestyle, how you're sleeping, your diet, um, but also takes you through a series of questions that establishes safety for using menopause hormone therapy. So we will ask you, about your personal history of breast cancer, for example, whether you have a history of blood clots, whether you have hypertension. Like, we take you through a careful series of questions. Um, and we designed an algorithm whereby our system, based on your answers to the questions, our system will show you um, options for menopause hormone therapy that are safe for you. You don't necessarily have to take those recommendations. You can click past and you'll see all of our medication options. And ultimately, um, you're connected with a healthcare practitioner. So we like to collect all this information up front for the reason I explained earlier. We never want a person to go through our flow, end up at the end, and we haven't asked them if they have a personal history of breast cancer. Like that would
Mhm.
be devastating, possibly. So we collect all the information up front so that when we present it to the doctor or nurse practitioner looking after you, they have like a very clear documentation of what's going on. At which point you enter a conversation with them. We do the majority of our visits using secure chat. So you're having like secure messaging back and forth with a practitioner. In some of our categories, we use phone and video. Um, and then you're going to make a decision together. And part of our process in the chat is we've created a lot of educational materials. So the healthcare practitioner is going to share those with you. Like, why don't you go read this article about this so we can make this decision together? If in the end you decide together that using any of our treatments is not a good option for you, you're not going to be charged for the visit, and you'll have had that education. And that happens with quite a few of our patients if they decide it's not what they'd like to do. If in the end there is a prescription, you can either have it sent to your like local pharmacy, or Felix does have integrated pharmacies that are our pharmacies, and the prescription can be sent to our pharmacies where they're reviewed. They're all Canadian pharmacy, Canadian pharmacists. They review the prescription and fill it and deliver it to your door typically within 2 days.
Oh.
And the special part about Felix, well, I think there are a few, but that connection with your healthcare practitioner stays open 24/7. So
Mhm.
when you get your medications, you're opening the box, you're like, I'm not really sure what to do about this or how to use this. You just go ask them.
Mhm.
If you take it, you're having a side effect, you ask them. So that avenue is always open. We have very highly trained, like a small pool, very highly trained, uh, really talented nurse practitioners and doctors who are super passionate about this. And they'll answer your questions. And then for all of our patients, we bring them back at 3 months to just formally assess how they're doing. Like during the quiz, they've told us about their symptoms and severity of symptoms, and then we're going to reassess those symptoms. Um, and we're gonna, a lot of this is trial and error. We're gonna see, like, did that work? Do we need to make any tweaks?
Mhm.
Do we need to change the dose? Do we need to change the medication? And then we go from there. If you're doing really well on your treatment, we're going to give you a year prescription. We'll keep delivering it. And again, that communication will stay open. If something changes, you come back to us.
Incredible. In your experience thus far and in the research, is there typically X, Y, and Z that most postmenopausal women need universally? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, I'm making it up. Is it just, it's pretty formulaic, right? Because when you're in postmenopause, there's things missing and we need to replace them.
Yeah. And I think so. I mean, all of our conversations are individualized, and a healthcare practitioner is going to review your specific symptoms, your specific past medical history, and they're going to make a suggestion. But I think this really goes back to some of the predatory elements of menopause care. Um, you'll see, for example, at Felix, we don't routinely order blood work. And we do order blood work in a lot of other categories. But if you look at, the Menopause Society, the Society of Obstetricians Gynecologists of Canada, their American counterparts, they all have guideline statements that say, like, if you're in menopause and having typical symptoms of menopause, blood work is not recommended. It's not needed. And
Mhm.
we don't, so a lot of companies, for example, will say, you need to have blood work done. We need to look at all of these levels, and then we will compound you a medication to address your hormone levels. And this is kind of this mythology of menopause that's been created by social media and created by companies that do want to make money in an industry.
Yeah.
But the reality is that yes, if you're having, for example, symptoms of low thyroid or low iron, of course you should have blood work done to
Yeah.
investigate those things. And
Yeah.
our healthcare practitioners screen for that. But if you're having classic symptoms of menopause or perimenopause, blood work is not, it's not suggested. There's a organization called Choosing Wisely Canada that helps doctors and nurse practitioners make decisions based on evidence. And really, whether you have blood work done or not with classic menopause symptoms, what we're going to do is treat your menopause symptoms.
Mhm.
And then we're going to
Mhm.
see if the treatment works. And then we're going to adjust the treatment. There's no research or evidence that has, taken people with ovaries through a 5 to 10 year period, monitored their blood work, given them medications, monitored their blood work again. Like that research has never been done.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess I'm telling you more what women don't need because you asked what women
Yeah.
need in menopause.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what they don't need. And part of this is because I heard Dr. Jen Gunter say this well, like in our collective um, cultural knowledge, like we understand what it's like to go through puberty. Like we know what to
Mhm.
expect. We know what to expect in pregnancy. These are things that we talk about regularly. You've seen people go through it, they talk to you about it. Um, but menopause is a place where there has been a cultural devoid of information ever since 2002, when the Women's Health Initiative study was released, that essentially said that menopause hormone therapy was dangerous, that it caused breast cancer and heart attacks.
Mhm.
And at that point, menopause education was really taken out of medical schools and it was taken out of residencies, even for obstetricians, gynecologists. So you encounter much of the medical field that has no training in this. Like, and I told you right before we recorded, I had an hour of it.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's why women have this experience of twofold, like being on social media and being told they need X, Y, and Z. And if they don't get it or take it in a certain way, there's no other way forward. It's why you
Mhm.
said to me, like, there's so much conflicting information out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's because there's this devoid of, there's
Mhm.
a void of correct information. Um, one thing, another thing that I think women don't need is to be told, which I think is really common, like, if you take this supplement for menopause, your symptoms will be 100% better. I
Mhm.
see that often on social media.
Mhm.
And, there are so many things going on for women in perimenopause and menopause. Like, you're typically in the prime of your career, you often have children or you have aging parents. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep, maybe you're not exercising, maybe you're not prioritizing healthy diet. There's there is a collective of things going on. And what's really critical is to talk to a healthcare practitioner that's going to understand that menopause hormone therapy is a piece of the puzzle,
Mhm.
but this is the time of life to really look holistically at health and
Mm.
wellness. Are you sleeping enough? What foods are you eating? What's your stress level and why? Should that be addressed?
Mhm.
Like, um, you know, do you smoke? Do you drink alcohol? How much? Like, why is that going on? Is there something we can do about it? There are a whole bunch of things to address. Menopause hormone therapy is a piece of the puzzle that can be incredibly helpful um, when done in a safe way.
Mhm.
Um, the last thing I would say in answer to your question is in the 10 years after menopause hormone therapy with estrogen and progesterone is safe and protective for the vast majority of women, with the caveats being there are certain reasons you cannot take it, like breast
Hmm.
cancer, and there are certain reasons using a gel or a patch is safer than taking a pill.
Hmm.
That's the kind of thing you need to talk about with a healthcare practitioner. But in general, I can tell you personally, when I go through that transition, I will take menopause hormone therapy if I have symptoms that warrant it,
Hmm.
because I believe it's generally safe for me and beneficial.
Hmm. Hmm. That's what it comes down to when I was in my own personal experience, weighing the risks, the upside, and the benefits of generally feeling better as one piece of the puzzle, which I love how you described. It's not the silver bullet to answer everything a 51-year-old woman is dealing with. It's worth exploring, as certainly I'm an advocate for it. What I love personally about Felix, because in researching our conversation in advance and understanding what you guys do, I did go through your website, your quiz. The user experience is excellent. You really, you personally and Felix, there's a very, I mean, it's aesthetically beautiful, but you do really make it easy to understand. And it also has a vibe by the words you use personally and the words on Felix of being very safe and evidence-based. This isn't a casual conversation. And when I was going through all the questionnaire, it's very thorough. I felt, very supported and comfortable, and the experience was incredible. And in the end, just getting the recommendations and the opportunity to have this live chat that is ongoing as my journey through your recommendations, your prescriptions. It is, you've demystified, you've synthesized the information in such an easily digestible way, and then your platform supports this very safe and educated journey. So, I'm going to scream from the rooftops on how every menopausal woman I know in Canada has to just be directed directly to your menopause program, because I've learned so much just in conversation with you and Michael and going through Felix digital platform that I'm very, very impressed.
Oh, thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah, we have to get the
there
word
are a
out.
few things that are like um, just for the sake of your listeners, I think using telemedicine can be a little bit daunting at times, and there's very little regulation in it. So it's
Hmm.
hard to tell as a consumer, like which telemedicine provider you should use, whether or not your data is safe, how they manage personal health information, what they're doing with your credit card information. And something that has been so
Hmm.
critical for us at Felix is to have the right cybersecurity in place to make sure all of the personal health information is stored, on encrypted Canadian servers. Um, we have a whole team that's dedicated to regulation and compliance. Our team regularly audits for quality improvement to make sure our healthcare practitioners are doing an excellent job and following guidelines. There was one other thing I wanted to address, and that is that Felix is um, really the biggest menopause health provider that is offering Health Canada approved medications for menopause hormone therapy. This is another area that I think is very mystified for women. Um, there are many companies that offer compounded um, bioidentical hormones. Um, and you will have heard of other experts trying to demystify this. And I think Jen Gunter, again, if you have not read,
Hmm.
or any of your listeners have not read the Menopause Manifesto, it's like a mandatory read.
Hmm.
She does a great job demystifying this term. Bioidentical hormones is a marketing term that, again, came about in 2002 after that study, um, to make women feel like they were using something safer than Health Canada approved medications. But I think
Hmm.
what people don't understand is the vast, vast, vast majority of Health Canada approved menopause hormone therapies are bioidentical. They are the same
Mhm.
hormones. Most of them are produced from the wild Mexican yam, which produces three hormones that are, you know, um, body identical to ours.
Oh,
And
wow.
so the vast majority of our treatments are bioidentical. We don't call them that because it's a marketing term.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't offer compounded treatments. They are not recommended by the Menopause Society or our national societies of obstetricians and gynecologists. The reasons for that are they haven't been Health Canada or FDA approved. There's issues with like concentrations and dosing. It's actually impossible to know the dose that you're getting. Um, uh, there's issues with like sterility and how they're produced. They have not been studied. There's no evidence for them. Whereas the medications that we offer, the 20 or 25 medications that we offer, actually more with the vaginal medications we offer, have all been rigorously studied and approved by Health Canada. And the
Mm-hmm.
vast majority are body identical or bioidentical. Um, and honestly, it took me months to feel like I got to the bottom of what bioidentical meant as a medical practitioner. I was like, what does this really mean? Why does everyone use this term? It's not easy to understand.
Yeah.
And we want to make this easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think that was my soapbox on
It's
why we offer the
important.
medications that we offer at
No, I'm
Felix.
so glad because it just further reinforces the research and the rigor that you guys go through in your program that you deliver. And it just brings to mind some recent research we did in our office, which was to send out a survey to, because we've got this database, 10 years of women in menopause that are in our community. What is, we asked them assorted questions. What are they craving content and resources and support around the most? But the first question I think we asked was, where do you go now for information about your symptoms in menopause? And 90% said their family doctor. And then we know that you got an hour of conversation about menopause through your entire medical education. So family doctors aren't equipped to speak about menopause. There's predatory environments and companies trying to make money on unsafe compounded hormones. For bloody hell, make sure that they're Health Canada approved. So that's why now I really am such a fan of what you guys are doing because you do lay it out. I do feel completely safe. Um, and that's really important. I'm glad you brought that up about just what's out there that's not going to be safe, not going to make an impact, and zero research and evidence behind it.
Hmm.
Scary,
It's
really scary.
interesting. A lot of companies will do day 21 of your cycle progesterone testing.
Hmm.
And that comes out of the fertility world and will often check day 21 progesterone to see if you've had like kind of a successful ovulation.
Hmm.
Um, and so that type of blood work is being done by some companies, but in number one, it doesn't really have utility. Number two, if you look at a graph of what hormones are doing, when you're in your 20s, like you see these nice curves about estrogen and progesterone. Like we know what they're going to do. When you get into your 40s, it's like this orchestra, this like chaotic orchestra, and there is no day 21 for a lot of these women. Like even if you get your period and that's day 1, you don't like know necessarily when the next period is coming.
Mm.
And that blood work should be done sort of like a week before your next period.
Hmm.
So a lot of these women are having really irregular cycles, and you test hundreds of women on day 21, you get hundreds of different readings, and then you treat them say in a perimenopausal woman, you treat them with progesterone, which we often use for sleep, for example, and you look at their response to therapy and you check their blood work, those women will not have it, even if they had identical blood work, they will not have identical responses to progesterone. They will all have different responses, and their repeat blood work will all look completely different because of the orchestra of hormones that's in chaos. Um, and so, what we should be doing is asking, like, okay, gave you this dose of progesterone. How do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
we adjust the medication based on how you feel, not based on any lab values. And I think just to speak to family medicine for a minute, because I trained through family medicine, I work in the academic family health team at St. Michael's. I do comprehensive family medicine with specialty in sexual health and HIV. Um, a lot of family doctors are getting more education about this now,
Good.
and our medical advisor, Natalie Gamache, she has been like flying across the country, giving as many talks as possible to as many family doctors as possible and
Good.
obstetricians, gynecologists. Like she is on a mission to educate, and she is such a compelling educator. Um, in our, like at Felix, in our ideal world, everyone would be able to see their family doctor who has known them for a long time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
knows their medical
Yeah.
history, knows their medications, could see them in a way that was convenient, in an accessible timeline, and like get their comprehensive care that way. Like we
Yeah.
believe in this. I believe in
Yes.
this. It's just not currently, given the challenges in our system, it's so hard at times to get access to a family doctor at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we are not a replacement for family doctors. We're not a replacement for the Canadian healthcare system. We are trying to address a very specific need for so many Canadians that have no access to care at all. Like there are certain provinces in Canada where you have to wait 24 months to see a gynecologist or obstetrician, unless you're pregnant and having a baby. Um, but, you know, we felt like it was so critical that women had faster access than that. So
Yeah.
our turnaround
Yeah.
time at Felix is typically 24 hours. But that said, anecdotally, you'll probably submit a visit and be talking to someone within a couple of hours.
It's incredible. I think I see you very clearly lobbying our government to make vast changes in family medicine and or more specifically menopause care because systemically to adjusting medical school training, all of the things that we've talked about, it has to go further downstream so that our children's generation, when they're going through menopause, have much better care and support.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, this has been eye-opening and such an important conversation, and we're so grateful for your describing what Felix does and how really unique and special it is, but also some pitfalls, more importantly, that women really have to be dialed into so they don't fall into the business of menopause trap and they're truly getting their own personal care that's right for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're
Thank
so
you.
excited to meet some of your listeners, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you and for everything that you're doing for women who really do need, more education and resources.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
My pleasure.